like most of us, increasing your profitability is always on your mind, and you're probably looking for ways to increase your revenue while growing your company as well. So, you found a podcast that shares ideas that help you do just that. I'm Marcia Reiner. I'm a business growth strategist. I've helped tons of small business owners to establish and implement a tangible plan that guarantees increased profitability, guides your growth, and plans for your future exit. Building a highly profitable and sale-ready business creates a win-win scenario. That's more money now and a windfall later when it's time to let go. And I look forward to sharing strategies that I've learned with you on today's Profit with a Plan podcast. But before we get started, I have some great news. I've released a book called The Profit Accelerator, and I'm looking for a few business owners to interview about how my book's 12 strategies would impact your industry. Go download my book for free and let me know if you'd like to be interviewed. I'm confident that these strategies can help any business increase their revenue, profit, and value of the company without having to pay for additional advertising or marketing. Go pick up your copy at trajectoryprofits.com/book-download. All right, I'm excited to have my guest on today. Melissa Brown is the Chief Operations Officer for Concierge Elite. Her educational background includes a Master of Arts degree in organizational and business management, specializing in human resources. She has several certifications in remote staffing, adult education, and training development. Melissa has over 20 years of experience, you can't tell, sharing her expertise deeply rooted in lifelong learning and her devotion to growing and developing people. She finds creative solutions to business challenges, innovating new products, and developing organizational processes and efficiencies when she's not raising her 7 kids and running a successful business. Welcome to Profit with a Plan podcast, Melissa.
Thank you so much. I appreciate being here.
Wow, this is great. Holy cow, 7 kids. Are you out of your mind?
A little bit. Yes,
That's
most
crazy.
of the days I wonder.
I know.
Yeah.
I have 2. They're older now, but I have a grandson that's 3.5. So I'm back in the cycle of raising. So it's definitely a crazy, crazy time. I couldn't imagine it exponentially with 7.
Yeah, absolutely. Luckily, the first 5 have grown. I have 1 grandbaby and I have 2 littles. Started over again. That's where the crazy comes in. And so I have a 4 and a 5-year-old running around, but and then running a business as well. So a lot of women out there know about that challenge.
Absolutely. And you know what? It can be done if you're organized and you've got goals and directions and people to support you, which, first of all, how did you decide that organization and people were your path?
Well, quite a while ago, 25 years ago, I ran into a situation where I had to make a choice. Not the choice that a lot of women get today, but I had to make a choice whether I was going to raise a family or be in a career. And at that time, there wasn't a lot of other options. And I chose to raise a family. And that's where I really began to have my family and started that. And at some point I thought, this has been fun, but but I want to be in the workforce. I have so much to give, and I really want to do that. And I really love working with people. And so it wasn't until in my mid 30s that I decided to go back to school. And that was through a lot of management and managerial jobs. I worked in the restaurant industry for a very long time, grew very quickly in that, and found that people and training people were my passion. And I was really good at it. So I decided to go back to school and, in my 35s versus my 18, I didn't care about school or grades. And then now priorities were different. So I had to excel. And I not only needed my associates, my bachelor's, I needed a master's. And I've even thought about going and getting my doctorate. But,
Wow.
I did it and I did well. And I just found that, not only was the training part a big piece, but really looking at businesses and determining where you can grow, how you can do some out of the box thinking and find some efficiencies and really excel. And that's what I've been able to do over the last really 15 years. So it's help other businesses.
That's fantastic. Miss Overachiever, you are. I had a similar path. I wasn't, I tried to raise kids at home, but I too, I felt like there was so much more I had to offer. And I found a way, which was, I think that's what helps when you're able to be resourceful, right? And find those ways to juggle more than one thing at a time, and, an endearing spouse that can support that.
Yeah,
That's, I
absolutely.
think that's definitely the path forward. But congratulations on all your hard work and coming to where you've been, where you've grown today. So
Thank
let me
you.
ask you a question, and I think this is why we came together, was that so many of us are looking at business in a different way, right? We've had this crazy COVID lifestyle that's really opened the eyes to traditional businesses and said, "Oh, I don't necessarily need to be in an office sitting right next to in a cubicle right next to my team. I can be outsourced. I can be
Mhm.
remote and make that work." And I'd love to ask you a few questions about how business owners today can really truly make that work. Does that sound fun?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's do it.
Perfect, perfect. Okay, so describe to me what your vision of outsourced working looks like.
So, again, coming from where I've come from, I had to make that choice, and I felt like, at some point in my career, is that women shouldn't have to make that choice. Any leader should not have to make the choice. There should be some work life balance. There should be other options out there. And taking that and taking the education that I had and all the studies that I have done on work, the differences of generations in the workforce, looking at the demands of people feeling the pressure, business owners are feeling the pressure of businesses being understaffed, taking all that
Mm,
information and looking, how can we solve a huge problem right now? How can we solve the problem of being understaffed, the generations working differently? How can we bring all of those
understood.
factors together? And solving that problem was really in remote work. Now, this is not a new thing. It's 20 years ago, remote work started to become a thing. I would say, if I was to put a number on it, somewhere in there. And it's become more and more popular. Now, COVID really proved the model that it could happen and it could be done well, and businesses could succeed thinking outside that box of the four walls. And so, out of the needs and where I currently work, and with the industries that I work, I'm going into these places and saying, listen, we have to rethink business. We have to rethink the strategies. The old ways are not going to succeed. You got to keep going. You got to keep progressing in order to stay ahead. And we've got to look at remote work and how it can benefit you in all of the different challenges that you're facing. And so remote work has really been a passion of mine because the personal story, but then again, solving challenges of being understaffed and all of those things. So remote work can work in any atmosphere, not just the one I currently specialize in, but every aspect. There is some way that you can impart this and help with work life balance. And so those are some of the just brief ways that we have to start to begin to think about those things.
I love it. And it's such an important conversation with today's workforce. As the younger crews are coming on board, they have different expectations than maybe we have. And those that are above us had had that, oh, you have to work for the same company for a long time. You got to punch a time clock. You got to do all this stuff. The workforce has changed so dramatically that they want different things. And part of that is the freedom, and the
Absolutely.
freedom that they could work and get the task done, but at their own time. And I think that's what scares the business owners, that,
Mhm.
oh, I'm not controlling the hours you're working. And I
Yeah.
keep thinking to myself, isn't it better to have an output than a time clock?
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that is one of the nuts to crack, is that as business owners, we have to rethink, and we have to look at the generation of the workforce that's coming in. I was speaking
Hmm.
to an owner who was in a flour mill, and that's where they work, and they're like, we can't get good help nowadays. We can't get any help. And I said, well, what have you done to revolutionize the way that you're looking at the new workforce coming in? What are you doing to attract them? And the funny thing was, is they said, we're putting out these big incentives, these big signing bonuses. And I said, well, that's interesting, because this generation is not looking at the money anymore. That's way down on the list of the things
Mm-hmm.
that they're looking for. As long as they have a livable wage, there's so many things that are now kind of, I think it's like number 5 on the list. So many other things that are coming up on the list. Culture is one, flexibility again is like 1 and 2. Those are 1 and 2. And so again, we can't just throw money at people, give signing bonuses. We have to rethink this, and that flexibility and that culture of what we're providing is huge. It's huge. And so
Mm,
that's where kind of that remote work idea comes in, is that how can we provide
right.
flexibility in a way that the output is going to be much better. Studies are showing all over the place that your output is 85 to 90% better than if you had them sitting in their 4 walls.
Isn't that crazy? Plus you're getting quality of life. You've got your dog at your feet, the
Yeah.
refrigerator nearby, but you're also not stressing over commuting and putting on a certain flair and attitude and so on. But I agree 100% that businesses have to change and improve the way they're running. Now there are certain places, and I was talking to one of my clients that has a manufacturing process that you need the person there on the line,
Yeah.
and so how do you outsource or remotely work that kind of environment?
Well, you're going to have to look at the types of positions that you have within each organization, right? There's going to be some, yes, you're going to have hands in the pot, but a lot of the
Mhm,
administrative jobs, a lot of anything that requires phone calls, paperwork, anything like that, you can outsource. Anything like
mm,
that can go remote. Yes, the hands-on. And then how do you provide flexibility in that? Well, you're probably going to have to look at your scheduling. So maybe
mm,
instead of 5 days a week that they're working 8 hours, maybe you change that to 4 10s or 3 12s. You're going to find that people are going to like those schedules a little bit more because, hey, Friday is football day for the kids and we got to take kids to football or whatever that looks like, right? To
right.
provide some of that flexibility and just changing up the way that things have been done all of the time 20 years prior is just not going to work anymore. But definitely
I
the
love
admin
that.
tasks.
That makes total sense about the flexibility in hours. You're still getting the 40 hours. You're still getting the job done, but it just looks a little bit differently. And the floor can adjust where you can put them through. Or if they don't want to work, they want their afternoons off, you work morning shifts 6 days or
Mhm.
whatever, but having that flexibility because I think that's really truly important. And then the point that admins, so you don't need to monitor them. I mean, there's so much software out there. I think the monitoring
Yeah.
can be done virtually as well, right?
It absolutely can. And I suggest always, if you're going to go with a remote workforce, is put some kind of monitoring system on there. And it's not because you're trying to peep into their room and there's been a lot of bad publicity about it. There's ones that just take screenshots every random time just to make sure that they're accountable to what they're doing, and that they are producing the results and all of those things. So yes, someone in a remote setting, you're going to have to set up weekly meetings with them. You want to stay connected. You want to have good culture, right? So Zoom, look at all the platforms that are out there nowadays. You're going to have to use technology, folks, but get in there, use it for your benefit, and allow people that ability to, like you said, have the dog on their lap and work. Not deal with that commute. And then meet with them daily on a Google Chat or a Zoom. Weekly, stay connected. When they're connected to that culture as well, that's going to increase the likelihood that they're going to stay and their happiness. So all of those different tools that they have just to make sure, because I get it, releasing a little bit of control is a little scary for some folks.
Yeah.
And so there's technology out there. Use that. It's cheap. It's not going to cost you. And look at really all the overhead and stuff that you can save
Oh,
by reducing.
exactly. Exactly. That's a big expense when we come to the profitability of a business is, your variable costs are what it costs to produce the widget or the service that you're providing. But those overhead costs, those fixed costs that are always there, whether you sell a product or not, can be quite expensive to house people. And here in California, parking, is a ridiculous expense added on, then all of the additional things that they need to have to run the office and everything. Funny enough, The professional services space that I play in with a lot of my cohorts, they want to be able to teach, and they want to be able to share wisdom. So they want to be
Mhm.
able to collaborate on a project together. And for some reason, they've got this block here in their eyesight that they can only do that in person. How does a business owner collaborate easier when they've got remote folks on a project or client or questions, that kind of stuff?
Yeah, absolutely. So my team, I've got about 65 folks, and we're all remote. We're all over the country, and we meet every day. We collaborate through tools. So there are some great resources out there. If you're already using the Microsoft Suite, things like that, you've got Asana boards. If you're more technical, you've got Google Chat. You've got all the instant messengers out there. I mean, really, the sky is the limit. You find one that you like, and you use that, and you stay connected. So my team's always got a chat feature and function up. We're always messaging back and forth. We have daily meetings, sometimes multiple times a day, instant, like, hey, let's just pop onto a meeting. And we just drop into Google Chat link
Kind
and
of that
meet.
open door policy, right? Right? If you've
Absolutely.
got your door open, you can come ask me questions. You can do that via chat, right?
Yep. Yep. Unless we're on meetings, you see that we're available. And at any point in time, we could pop that in. Because sometimes conversations are a little harder to brainstorm through, typing it out. So it's easier just to meet. And so, again, that's that culture that we're building as a leader. That's the leader's job
Mm,
to create that culture, that positive culture, the collaboration culture. And so you can do
yeah.
that through the tools. And matter of fact, I got to tell you, my team collaborates better remotely than I remember being in the office and collaborating, because there's a lot more distractions when I was in the office, or it's just the grind, right? Nobody likes the grind. And so
Right.
we're more productive knowing that we can control our schedule. Some people like to sit at their computer, do the 5 hours, not take a lunch break, but then peace out early. That
Hmm.
flexibility again is increasing the productivity. And so I think it comes back to culture of the leader. What are you willing to do, and how are you going to, bring that out of people? And it absolutely can be done in all the tools that are out there.
I love this conversation. It is so timely and so important because all I hear from my cohorts and folks out there is like, I can't find good help. Well, first of all, they're looking in their, 15, 20-mile radius for high quality help. But then they're also having these old fashioned, and I can call them old fashioned requirements that you've got
Mhm.
to be on site, right? Where there's talent all over the US, let alone all over the world,
Yeah.
that can work for you and help you produce the product and solution that you're offering for your company, sometimes at even bit of a better wage if you were to be creative about it. So how do you pay people, that are working remote, right? I mean, are they looking for the same salary that they would have got if they're on the inside?
Most of the time, not. No, most of the time you're going to get a reduced rate. And then, so if you're going to be looking at recruiting and you're going to do it, I mean, that is what my business is. But if you're looking at doing it, you need to decide if you want to go globally. And
Mm,
then I really recommend, if you decide to go global, that you look for a company that is good at doing that, because I want you guys
that
to
can
focus, the
support you.
business owner, right, on what you're good at. Let them do it, because there are rules and regulations within each different country. So, but I'm telling you, the talent is phenomenal. I really focus on finding the top 3% talent in the world. We definitely source in about 4 different countries, but there are ways to look for that talent and really get it where you can lower overhead, increase your ROI, but ultimately not only invest in your business, but you can take and invest in lives that you would never be able to do before, and pay them a great wage. Pay them a great wage.
Mm.
There is no reason to pay them what their minimum wage is. Pay over and above that and give them something that they never could have had before. And I guarantee, I was having this conversation with somebody, and they said, what did you think the difference was between hiring US and hiring international? And I said, unfortunately, right now, I think the workers in the US don't really want to work. There's a lot of things that we face, right, with the challenges of today. Okay, no, there's not a lot of business owners that will disagree with that. But when I hired international, I felt that there was a passion to work. They want to work, they want to be there, they will show up. Our team, we have a less than 1% turnover rate
Mm.
because, again, we pay really well and we provide a great environment. And I tell this story, and I think this wraps it up very well. I said, one of my countries, I had two employees that went through a typhoon,
Mm.
and they had their I didn't even know, right? And they drove hundreds of miles away to sit in an internet cafe and work and show up for work the next day. We never even knew. Well, when I asked about it, I said, weren't you guys affected by the typhoon? They said, yes. And I said, are you okay? And they said, well, yeah, we drove hundreds of miles. We're in an internet cafe. We're good, but our homes are wiped out. We no longer have a home. But that's okay. That's okay, Melissa. We're here. We're showing up for work. And I'm like, are you kidding? That is the
Go home.
that is the hunger and drive that I find in international countries, and really where my passion, because they showed up. They showed up despite all odds. They did whatever they had to do to show up for work that day. It wasn't, I have a cough, I can't come. It was, my home is destroyed, but that's okay. Today I'm at work. I found a place. I went to the
Wow.
nearest place with internet and I'm working today. And so I
Wow.
love it. So any of those people where there's bad stigma, guys, I really challenge you to rethink that bad stigma. There are
You-
great people all over the world.
What a great story and a great eye opener. Here I'm thinking numbers, right? I'm thinking, well, if you don't have to pay for their desk, right? Their equipment, their telephone lines and everything that you've got in an office, and the rent and the heating and air conditioning and everything, the parking we have here in California. And then you don't even, like, California wages are like through the roof, and the taxes and everything that we've got on here. If you can stretch that out, I'm looking at a double savings. Now
Mhm.
you're right, you're not going to pay $6 an hour or $5 a day in the Philippine rate, but you're still getting the task done, and you're highly educated
Mhm.
MBA type people all over the US that are hungry to work. I mean, all over the world that are hungry to work. And I think that that's a great opportunity. Last thing I want to suggest is taking jobs away from people in the US. But I think when you're running a business, folks, you need to find good talent that are going to represent you well to your customers, that are going to finish the task that you ask to be done in a timely manner, and be pleasant to work with, right?
Mhm.
That's all we ask for, right? As business
Yeah.
owners. Maybe if they go above and beyond, it's like great. But it doesn't matter where they are. And I think this opening up for remote work, whether it's in Idaho and I'm in California, or it's the Philippines to do some light paperwork that I need done, it doesn't matter. The whole idea is to get the job done,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah,
Uh,
absolutely. Grow your business. Grow it exponentially because you can. And it is about really rethinking. And that's what I challenge people to do. I throw these ideas out there because I know that it can be done. I know it can be done very successfully as I've grown my business in the last several years. But it's to get you to think that you can go beyond the four walls, that you can go beyond the state or the 10 or 20 miles that you're in. There are so many options out there. And listen, if hiring international, like you said, is not for you, then find somebody in another city and another state, because those are options as well. And
mhm.
go out and find the best fit for you.
Right. I love it. I love it. And I think that opens up the doors for doing what you need to do, right? I mean, it's like there's no more limited space of how they can drive and commute to your work, and
Yeah.
whether they can afford to take your salary because their housing prices are too high, and what have you. You can make it happen. You can make it work. You can grow your business. And I'm a huge fan that the number one way to grow your business is to leverage other people's time.
Mm.
And if you can do that in a way that works for everybody, that's the way you're going to grow.
Yeah.
Love it. Love it. All right, Melissa, this has been a fantastic conversation. You're sharing me really good ideas. What else? First of all, before we go, because I know there's so much more we can do, what else do we need to know about remote workers? that maybe business owners or listeners aren't thinking about?
Well, I know that we help provide some strategies for deciding if you want to go remote. So we look at doing some evaluations for you, taking a look at your business. I'll spend some time with you guys, your listeners as well, to really kind of see if that's a good fit for you. And if it is, then I'm going to give you 5 steps to really decide how you're going to go about remote work, and really provide you some really tangible tools with that. So I think you kind of go through that process, really leveraging the type of ads that you put out, how you spend your time and your money when you're looking for people. That's going to be a big one that we kind of didn't talk about as well. And then leveraging the online tools, making sure that when you're interviewing, you're doing it over like a Zoom or something, so that you're really meeting that person and finding the right culture fit. So you're really going to want to look
Exactly.
at some of those tools that you're using to stand out among the crowd.
That's great. And you mentioned that we need to look at those kind of tasks, right? So when we're thinking of hiring remote or hiring anybody, right? You've got to have a clean job description of what
Mhm.
you expect this person to do, some procedures that you want them to follow, and some support and guidance along the way. And I
Right.
think whether you're having them sitting next to you or sitting across the screen from you, the same thing, right?
Yeah, yeah, we always develop what we call protocol sheets. And basically, that's just it. It is an outline to say, this is what the protocols are, this is what the job expectation is, and this is what I would expect on a daily, weekly, or monthly basis. And really having those touch points. And then really looking at each individual thing that they could do. Hey, if you run out of work, these are some other things that we can supplement that with. So like our team, when they if there's not phone calls coming in, then there's insurance verification that they're doing, or there's back end work. They're calling old clients who haven't been in a while. They're doing reactivation calls, so helping towards that sales process, managing social media, all of those things that this generation's really good at. Handling Google reviews, all of the things that take up time from a business owner. Those are the things you want to start to think to source out to somebody else. Who likes listening to voicemails? Nobody, but your outsourced person could. Who likes looking through all of your emails? Nobody. So don't look at an email again unless it's marked as urgent or important. Let your team do
Right,
that.
right, right. I love it. So there are things that they can do that frees up your time to do the important things that you should be doing, or better yet, that only you can do,
Yes.
and freeing those things off. But having clear procedures, clear
Procedure.
expectations, and it's the same whether you're hiring inside or remotely. It's just how you stay engaged with them throughout the process. And I love all the technology that is available out there. I never thought of the screenshots to see that they're working and what they're working on, rather than
Mhm,
playing a
mhm.
video game, right? Which is our biggest
Right.
fear. They're not doing what we pay them to do. Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly.
And I heard one more quick thing that has been actually come kind of interesting to me as of late, is that there's kind of an interest in doing, instead of paying them an hourly wage or a salary, but paying them based on task. So like
Mhm.
project-based pay. So instead of saying you worked 6 hours, I've checked you on your time, I've screenshotted, see that you did it, rather than saying, I'm going to pay you X for this project. What are your
Yeah.
thoughts on that for remote working? I kind of like it.
Yeah, absolutely. If that's what your business is kind of around, I mean, that's what we kind of call the gig economy, right? So there's a lot of
Right.
websites and stuff out there for that type of work where it's project based. And so you pay based on that project, or you outsource based on that project. Again, there's a lot of websites and places that you can go to find really good talent, and people are going to take it on a project basis. So say if you just want to revamp your systems, or your management software, whatever it is, or your client contacts, you have a project specifically, build a website for me. There are great people out there, and you really kind of look at their experience versus their cost, and you can really look at that. But if you have current employees that you want to send home with a specific project and pay based on that, you absolutely could. Incentive based as
Okay.
well. If you're in sales, having a certain amount of calls done, and then incentivize based on the outcome of those calls. So I'm going to give you a
Mm,
base rate for making X amount of calls. You have to make the minimum. And then everything
right.
above that, I'll pay this. And then if there's appointments booked, I'm going to put an incentive on that. So just looking at how you can stack and relook at how you pay is an absolutely thing that you should be doing if you can, depending on your industry.
I love it. I love it. And I like the flexibility, right? So our employees like flexibility. Look,
Yeah.
business owners, you can have flexibility too, right? By looking at these kind of methods and models. All right. So again, Melissa, this has been a fantastic conversation that has been so timely for the new environment that has developed in remote working and how you can have successful team members that work remotely. Where can listeners find out more about you and what you have to offer?
Absolutely. You can visit us at conciergeelite.com. That's all one word, conciergeelite.com, or melissa.b at conciergeelite.com. Check us out. We are a remote front desk staffing company. We provide dedicated front desk team members for your business. We are not a call center, but we're looking for the right fit for you and your company.
I love that. I love it. And it's so important to have someone friendly and welcoming who is the front of your company. Because if you're the business owner answering the phone, that's a little bit of a warning sign, right? You should be behind a
Absolutely.
couple of layers of gatekeepers.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
that's great. All right, listeners, I hope you found a couple of ideas to help you become more profitable in your business. And I know that with the challenges we're all facing here in the States with finding good talent, that it's maybe time to look outside of your local area, and looking remote would be super helpful for you. And now more than ever, it's more important to focus on growing your business and its revenue. Go download my book with 12 strategies that can dramatically increase your revenue, profit, and value of your company. Again, without having to pay for additional advertising or marketing. Go pick up a copy of my book at trajectoryprofits.com/book download. Melissa and I would love to hear your questions or comments or ideas. Let us know a success story that happened when you hired remotely, or maybe a challenge you're facing and you're afraid to hire remotely. Reach out on us on this podcast, on the chats, and we will respond back and answer your questions. And while you're at it, please subscribe to today's show. You don't want to miss any other episodes coming up. So go ahead and catch Profit with a Plan on any of your favorite podcast players, and we're looking forward to more great profitable information on next week's show. So until then, make your plans and profit with it. Thanks so much, Melissa.